People always say marriage is a beautiful thing. Nobody ever follows that with specifics. They just say it like a commercial. Marriage is a beautiful thing. Side effects may include confusion, arguing about nothing, sharing a phone charger for the rest of your life. I remember before I got married, everyone gave me advice. Not helpful advice, just phrases. My dad was like, "Son, marriage is about compromise." I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" He goes, "You'll see." That's not advice. That's a threat wrapped in a fortune cookie. The first big mistake I made in marriage was thinking I understood what means. Before marriage, what is this cute thing? What should travel? We should try new restaurants. After marriage, what turns into, we forgot to pay the electric bill, which is interesting because somehow I am the one on the phone with the electric company. Nobody explains that marriage is basically a long, slow group project where both people are convinced they're the only one doing any work. Before the wedding, I thought I was a pretty put-together person. I knew how to make a sandwich. I paid my bills VV sometimes, even on time. Then we got married, and overnight I went from fully functioning adult to a guy who apparently doesn't know how to put a towel on a rack correctly. They're smart. I didn't even know there was a correct way. I thought the towel's only job was to be dry and vaguely in the bathroom. My wife will come in and go, "Why would you put it like this?" I'm like, "Gravity did that." You're mad at the laws of physics. And there's this thing where, in marriage, every small question is a test you didn't study for. She'll ask, "Did you notice anything different about the house?" And my heart just drops. Because I know something has changed. I know I didn't notice it. And I know this is gonna court. I start looking around like I'm trying to solve a crime scene. The couch view is more couchy. The air feels reorganized. She'll be like, "I moved the lamp 6 inches. Of course, that was my next guess. Nobody explains that marriage is basically a long, slow group project where both people are convinced they're the only one doing any work. Before the wedding, I thought I was a pretty put-together person. I knew how to make a sandwich. I paid my bills, sometimes even on time. We got married, and overnight I went from fully functioning adult to a guy who apparently doesn't know how to put a towel on a rack correctly. Didn't even know there was a correct way. I thought the towel's only job was to be dry and vaguely in the bathroom. My wife will come in and go, "Why would you put it like this?" I'm like, "Gravity did that." You're mad at the laws of physics. And there's this thing where, in marriage, every small question is a test you didn't study for. She'll ask, "Did you notice anything different about the house?" And my heart just drops because I know something has changed. I know I didn't notice it, and I know this is gonna court. I start looking around like I'm trying to solve a crime scene. The couch is more couchy. The air feels reorganized. She'll be like, "Move the lamp 6 inches. I'm like, "Of course." That was my next guess. Another big mistake was thinking we would make decisions together. That's adorable. The first year of marriage, I realized "we decided" is just a phrase you say after your spouse decides. People ask, "You guys getting a dog?" And I go, "Yeah, we decided to get a dog." No, we didn't. She sent me a picture of a dog with big eyes and the message, "Look at him, he needs us." At that point, I'm not making a decision, I'm signing paperwork. And chores in marriage are confusing too. There's this invisible scoreboard in the house that I never knew existed. My wife will be like, I did the dishes, cleaned the bathroom, I folded the laundry, and then she looks at me. I'm like, thought about mowing the lawn, and somehow that's not equal. If she runs 3 errands and I take out the trash one time, I'm like, we're even. She does not agree with that math. Also, nobody tells you how much of marriage is just answering the question, what do you want to eat? For the rest of your life. That's 70% of the job. We've had entire evenings ruined by the words, I don't know, what do you want? We will sit hungry, scrolling through food options, rejecting each other's ideas like it's a job interview. No. Burgers. No. What do you want then? I don't know. At that point, I'm like, maybe we aren't ready for this level of commitment. We can't even commit to tacos. Explains marriage, big mistake. The first job is to pull people in with something so familiar that they relax and think. That's me. A simple, clean line such as, people always say, marriage is a beautiful thing, works because everyone has heard it. It feels safe, neutral, almost boring. That's exactly why it's powerful you're starting on common ground. The audience isn't defensive yet. They're nodding along. That nod is your first hook. You're agreeing with them. Feel smart and included before you surprise them. Once you have that basic shared sentence, immediately twist it just enough to create a small shock. Follow the cliché with an unexpected, honest turn. They say marriage is a beautiful thing, like it's a commercial. Side effects may include confusion, arguing about nothing, sharing one phone charger for the rest of your life. That shift from romantic slogan to warning label is the hook that wakes everyone up. They recognize the phrase, but they've never heard it finished that way. The mind goes, wait, they're smart, that's true, and I've never thought of it like that, and now they want to hear where you're going. The tone needs to be calm and conversational, almost understated. You're not shouting, you know what's W wrong with marriage? You're gently inviting them into a shared observation, as if you're on the couch with a friend, not on stage with a microphone. That low-key delivery acts as its own hook because the jokes sneak up on people. When the opening is relaxed and simple, the audience leans in, expecting a story. The punchlines feel sharper because they're arriving out of this casual, everyday tone. A strong, professional opening also poses a small question in the audience's mind, even if you never say it out loud. When you start with marriage is a beautiful thing, the listener is subconsciously asking, is it? Your very next beat should answer that question in a funny, specific way. For example, everyone told me marriage is about compromise. They never explained that compromise means I give up. She also agrees that I give up. The hook here is the unspoken promise. I'm going to tell you what marriage is actually like, but you're going to laugh the whole time. Layering micro hooks into that first minute keeps attention high. You can sprinkle in quick, vivid images. Marriage is a beautiful thing until you're standing in Target at 9 p.m., arguing over which shade of white is less aggressive for the bathroom towels. Each specific detail is another tiny hook. It makes people picture their own life, their own Target trip, their own towels. The more they see themselves, the more locked in they are. You're no longer a stranger telling jokes. You're the voice in their head, saying the things they're not saying out loud. Finally, remember that a simple, relatable hook doesn't mean a weak or slow start. It means you begin on a line everyone can step on together. You pull the rug just a little, Familiar sentence, unexpected ending. Safe setup, honest punch. The audience comes in thinking they know where you're going. Your job with that first line is to make them think, okay, I need to hear the rest of this playing the confused. Reasonable character is one of the most powerful tools you can use in this kind of marriage bit because it puts the audience on your side immediately. You are not attacking your partner. You're not bitter. You're not angry. You're just a normal person trying to understand why simple things in marriage are suddenly so complicated. That gap between this seems simple and apparently it's not is where a huge amount of comedy lives. The key is to present yourself as calm, honest, and slightly outmatched by everyday situations. For example, instead of saying, wife is crazy about towels, you say, I thought I knew how towels work. Turns out, you place the blame on your own confusion, not on the other person. This keeps the tone warm and clean, which makes the audience relax and trust you. The hook is that you sound like the only sane person in a world that keeps changing the rules on you. Your character's internal logic should always make sense. That's crucial. When you talk about not understanding, you might say, before marriage, meant something cute. We should travel, we should try new food. After marriage means we forgot to pay the electricity bill, even though I'm the only one on the phone with the company. You're not yelling, genuinely puzzled. The hook here is that everyone has experienced that word, way, used in a way that doesn't quite feel fair. You're the one brave enough to say it out loud. Lean into slow, careful thinking. Pause like you're truly trying to figure it out in the moment. She asked, did you notice anything different in the house? And I realized this is not a question. This is a game show. I'm about to lose my marriage over a lamp. That slow realization is another hook. The audience enjoys watching you put the pieces together, even though they already know where it's going. A professional way to keep this character engaging is to never act like you're smarter than the audience. You're discovering the joke at the same time they are. When your wife says, it's fine, you don't instantly decode it. You tell the crowd, I thought it's fine meant it's fine. I didn't know there was an emotional translation app I was supposed to download. You're not attacking women or marriage, relationships. You're playfully admitting you don't fully get the system. That humility is a powerful hook. People root for someone who's trying but struggling, visually and vocally. Keep it understated. No wild gestures, over-dramatizing. The more normal and reasonable you look, the funnier it is that these small moments, towels, lamps, thermostats, throw you completely off balance. Each time you hit confusion, you can add a soft, almost whispered tag. Didn't know that was a thing. Or nobody told me this part. Those little tags are mini hooks that keep the laughter rolling and reinforce your character as the bewildered, well-meaning spouse just trying to keep up. Specific everyday details are what turn a general idea about marriage into something that feels real, lived in, and memorable. When you say marriage is hard, the audience nods, but they don't laugh yet. It's too broad. The moment you say marriage is standing in the kitchen arguing over whether the thermostat should be on 70 or 72, like you're negotiating a peace treaty, you've given them something concrete to see in their mind. That clear mental picture is a hook. It pulls them into the scene with you. The details should be small, familiar, a little bit ridiculous when you slow them down. Towels, lamps, the dishwasher, the couch. the way someone loads groceries, choosing a restaurant, text messages that say, K, these are the tiny moments everybody lives through and nobody talks about. Highlight one of those moments. The audience gets that pleasant shock of recognition. We do that exact thing. That recognition is an emotional hook. It makes them feel exposed and understood at the same time. Another powerful hook comes from stacking specifics. Instead of saying, argue about house stuff, break it into a series of images. She moved the lamp 6 inches. I bought new throw pillows that look exactly like the old ones. Asked if I felt the difference in the room. Each specific beat gives another chance for a laugh, and each one deepens the feeling that you're telling the truth about something they've also lived. The more precisely you describe it, the more universal it becomes. Details also help control rhythm. A long general setup can drag, but a short, specific phrase can snap attention back. For example, we spent 40 minutes deciding what to eat is fine. We spent 40 minutes scrolling past the same 3 places we always go, pizza, burgers, or that one place that gave us food poisoning in 2019 hits harder. Mentioning 2019 and food poisoning turns a vague complaint into a little movie clip in their head, which is another hook. Professional sounding, observational comedy speaks with confidence about details like you've studied them your whole life. You're not just mentioning a towel, you're talking about the correct, apparently sacred way a towel has to hang so it can be seen but never used. That extra layer of description is where you hide your hooks. Aren't only listing objects, you're adding a point of view, a little attitude, and there's a slight exaggeration that reveals what you really think about them. The goal is for the audience to leave remembering 1 or 2 of those images. The lamp moved 6 inches, the never-ending thermostat war, the silent car ride after someone says, it's fine. Those visuals stick. They become mental triggers that bring the entire bit back to them later. When you choose details that your crowd actually lives with every day, each one becomes a hook that grabs them in the moment and echoes in their own life after the joke is over. Turning small problems into big mistakes is the engine that drives this kind of marriage bit. The audience knows, logically, that forgetting to notice a lamp or arguing about the thermostat is minor. The joke is that you treat it like a major turning point in the relationship, as if the entire future of the marriage hangs on a towel or a text message. That contrast between how small this is and how big we react is a powerful hook that keeps people listening. You start with something tiny and harmless, a lamp moved 6 inches, the toilet paper facing the wrong way, not replying fast enough to a text saying, I'm fine at the wrong moment. Then you speak about it in dramatic, serious language. That's the day I realized I might not survive this marriage. Or that's when I learned I was legally wrong for the rest of my life. The audience feels the exaggeration instantly. They know you're overreacting on purpose. That gap between the trivial trigger and the epic response is where the laughs come from. One of the cleanest techniques is to describe the small problem like it's a legal case or a crisis meeting. A line such as, we had a 3-day investigation because I didn't notice she changed the shower curtain. Turns a little domestic detail into a full-scale drama. Reference, evidence, witnesses, statements, the moment it all fell apart. You are framing the scene as if you're on trial for a crime against the relationship when all you did was hang a towel. Wrong. That framing itself is a hook. The audience wants to hear how far you'll take it. You can also hook them by pretending the small thing reveals some deep truth about your character. For example, I thought I was a good man. Then I found out I'm the kind of monster who loads the dishwasher inefficiently. Now you've taken a mundane disagreement and inflated it into a moral judgment. The more seriously you act about it, the funnier it becomes. You are the reasonable person being told that your entire worth as a spouse is tied to how you fold laundry. Another effective angle is to show how far back the big mistake supposedly goes. A short argument about dinner becomes, you're telling proof that you have always been wrong since the day you met. I said I wanted pizza, she wanted sushi. Somewhere in there we revisited every decision I've made since 2014. The hook is that time jump. You're inviting the audience to laugh at how relationships can drag ancient history into a 5-minute disagreement. It helps to speak with calm seriousness while describing the escalation. The quieter you are, the bigger the mistake feels. I didn't know this at the time, but by choosing the wrong thermostat setting, actually filed for emotional divorce. Understated delivery against overblown consequences creates a sharp contrast. Listeners lean in because you sound like you're confessing something huge. They realize you're just talking about air conditioning. By systematically taking these tiny, harmless moments and treating them as if they are catastrophic errors, you give every part of your story weight, rhythm. Surprise, the audience follows you from one big mistake to the next, hooked by the promise. The next disaster will be even more ridiculous and even more familiar than the last. Misunderstanding language and hidden meaning is one of the richest sources of comedy in marriage material because relationships are full of phrases that don't mean what they sound like. On the surface, everything is simple. Do whatever you want, we're okay. But underneath, there's an entirely different conversation happening. When you act like you only understand the surface meaning, you create a natural hook. The audience knows there's a deeper meaning, and they're waiting for you to slowly, painfully discover it. The key is to commit to taking words literally. When your partner says, "It's fine," you respond in the bit like, "Oh, good, it's fine," and keep going. Show the audience that you don't speak this emotional language yet. Then, after a beat, you reveal what you've learned, didn't realize. It's fine has levels. Level 1, it's not fine. Level 2, it's definitely not fine. Level 3, you should probably run. That progression is a hook. The crowd follows each translation because they've lived it. You can treat common relationship phrases like foreign vocabulary you're trying to memorize. She said, "Whatever you want." I thought she meant, "Do whatever I want." I didn't know that was the most dangerous sentence in the English language. Setting it up like a language lesson lets you build a mini game with the audience. Each time you introduce a phrase, they're already guessing it's real, meaning your punchline either matches or playfully exaggerates it. Another strong hook is to compare normal speech to official language. For example, when she says, "We need to talk," that's not a casual statement. That's a calendar event, a performance review, Judgment Day, all in one. You're elevating a tiny sentence into an institution. The audience laughs because they know that sinking feeling, you're just giving it a dramatic, professional label. Feels both true and overblown at the same time. You can also create scenes where you act out both the literal meaning and the hidden meaning side by side. She said, "Don't worry about it. And out loud, I said, okay, I won't. Inside my brain, the alarm system was going off. Alert. We're absolutely supposed to worry about it. Letting the audience hear both voices, the clueless surface and the panicked inner monologue, keeps them hooked because they're watching you catch up in real time. A professional way to structure this is to introduce one key phrase, unpack its translations, then quickly tag it with related phrases. It's fine. I'm not mad. We'll talk later. Each one gets its own tiny reinterpretation, almost like a mini dictionary. I'm not mad means I am definitely mad. I'm just saving it. These short, punchy translations become rapid-fire hooks, giving the audience multiple chances to laugh in a row. What makes this approach so engaging is that everyone in the room knows there's always more being said than the words themselves. Pretending you don't understand that at first, and then building your own exaggerated translation guide to relationship language. You invite the audience into a game they already know how to play. They stay with you because they want to hear how you'll decode the next everyday sentence and how wrong you'll be before you finally get it right. A strong marriage bit needs a closer that feels satisfying, memorable, and connected to everything the audience just heard. One of the cleanest ways to do that is with a clear callback to your central idea and a simple visual test or analogy that the crowd can instantly imagine. You want their brains to go, oh, that's the whole joke, wrapped up in one picture. That moment of recognition is a built-in hook, gives them the feeling that the story has come full circle. If your theme is explaining marriage is a big mistake, you sprinkle that phrase throughout the set, but you save the sharpest, smartest use of it for the end. Early on, you might say it casually, they asked me to explain marriage, big mistake. In the middle, you escalate it, I tried to explain towels, also a big mistake. Then, at the end, you bring it back in a way that ties everything together. For example, after describing all the little battles over thermostats, lamps, and it's fine, you say, so if you still want me to explain marriage, after all that, that's the real big mistake. The audience recognizes the phrase, and that recognition is a hook that triggers a wave of laughter. The test or analogy works like a final image the audience can carry out of the room. It should be simple, physical, easy to reenact in their own life. In this kind of bit, something like the thermostat test for marriage is ideal. If you want to know if you're ready for marriage, set your thermostat to a comfortable temperature, have someone silently change it every 15 minutes, and you're not allowed to say anything. If you survive 6 months, you ready? That's funny on stage, but it's also something they can actually picture trying. The hook here is that you've turned an abstract idea, relationship compromise, into a tiny experiment anyone can understand. This closing analogy should echo several earlier jokes. If you talked about silent treatment, small arguments, and unspoken expectations, your test can include those elements in exaggerated form. You're only allowed to ask, something wrong, twice a week. They're only allowed to answer, I'm fine, if you don't go insane. Congratulations. Each line in that test reminds the audience of a previous beat in the set, so they feel like they're getting a montage of the whole routine in a few seconds. That layering of callbacks is an engagement hook. Every reference rewards people for paying attention. Another important element is tone. End with the same calm, reasonable voice you used throughout the bit. They're smart. You're not shouting a catchphrase. You're almost confessing a little truth. you've earned. Gentle delivery keeps the audience leaning in right to the last word. A soft, understated final line after the big laugh. Something like, "But hey, it's a beautiful thing," can give one more chuckle and a warm emotional landing without you having to force it. When you close with a tight callback and a clear, funny test people can imagine doing at home, you give the set shape. The audience gets laughter, recognition, and a single strong image that locks the whole story in their memory. They walk away hearing your last line in their head and replaying the bit whenever they touch their thermostat. "It's fine," or "pass a towel rack." That lingering echo is the ultimate hook. So when people ask me now, "Can you explain marriage?" I tell them, but it's a big mistake to think you'll understand it before you're in it. Marriage is promising to spend your life with someone who will never park the car the way you would, never load the dishwasher the way you would, and somehow still be the person you want to tell everything to. Even when they're mad, you didn't notice they moved a lamp 6 inches. They're smart. It's two people who both think they're the reasonable one, standing in a kitchen, arguing about the correct direction for the toilet paper. If you're not married yet and you want to know what it's like, here's a test. Go to your thermostat, set it to a comfortable temperature, then have someone walk behind you and change it without saying anything every 15 minutes. If you can survive that for 6 months and still want to be around that person, congratulations, you're ready. And if you still want me to explain marriage after that, well, big mistake. Look, after all of this, I still think marriage is great. I just don't think I'm qualified to explain it. I thought it was going to be sunsets and soulmates. It turned out to be two people quietly fighting a cold war over a thermostat and a lamp that moved 6 inches. I went in thinking, we're a team. And I found out, we means I am officially responsible for things I didn't even know happened. I can't tell you the meaning of love, but I can tell you there is a right way to hang a towel. And if you don't know it, so if you're single and you ever feel tempted to ask a married person, "Hey, what's marriage really like?" Oh, that's the real big mistake. Because whatever they tell you won't make sense until you're standing in your own kitchen in the dark. Whisper arguing about takeout while someone says, "It's fine," and you know it absolutely is not. Marriage is confusing. It's exhausting. It's 1,000 tiny negotiations about nothing. And somehow, it's still the person you want to do all that with. And if you can understand that sentence, then congratulations. You don't need me to explain marriage.